Michigan, get ready to get into training camp coming up on Wednesday. It's the last Friday before Michigan hits the field and goes into the sub. That's got us all excited. They kicked off the unofficial start to college football in Indianapolis this past week with Big Ten Media Days. Former Wolverine Jerry Diorio is here, and we're ready to talk about all of it. Jerry, great to see you. What's going on?
Great to be a Michigan Wolverine, Denny. Getting into it, closing out the summer, going down the home stretch now. A lot of the work has been done already, Denny. You know, you don't win games on Saturday. You win them Monday through Saturday, and you don't have great seasons in August. You have great seasons January through November, so in December. So January to January. So the work is being done. They're winding down now. I believe we start Monday camp.
Wednesday, I think.
Or Wednesday. We're getting into it.
Close enough. The heat. Jerry, you sound like a former coach. Well, you are a former coach. Did you coach 20 years high school?
Over 20 years, Danny. Yes,
Over 20 years. So yeah, you know what it takes to build a team. Well, Michigan had Sharon Moore. They had Donovan Edwards, Max Bredeson, and Makari Page. They were all in Indy. It was the first time officially that Sharon Moore, he's done interviews, he's been at golf outings, but he was up there and being introduced as Michigan's head coach. And he talked in front of the lights and the cameras there. And he did a great job. Yeah, he looked good. He sounded good. He commanded the room. And nobody asked him any flippant questions or anything, that would make anyone mad, Michigan fans or the coach himself. And, so it went off without a glitch. So from that standpoint, it doesn't matter very much, but, it's nice. It's not a surprise that Moore handled himself. We've seen him in front of the cameras, and he does a good job there. But, it's you got to have that first time, and this was the first time. And for a lot of people, it was the initial time to see Moore as the head coach officially at Michigan. So, from that, he did a good job.
Denny, in some cases, you could say Sharon Moore is in a very unique situation, coming in as a first-year head coach with potentially the best defense in the country, which puts you in the race for the national title. And there's such high hopes. And here we are with a first-year coach in those high hopes. And I think he's the right guy. I think he's made all the most of the right moves. And I think we're going to be fine. But it's just a unique position that Sharon finds himself in, that expectations are so high for a first-year coach. It's not normal. That's not the way it usually happens.
No, normally coaches are getting fired and you're coming in and you're thinking it's going to take a while to make an impact on the field. We've got some position battles to go over. The coach mentioned a few there in Indy, a little bit of some surprise there. The head coach also talked about the possibility of a freshman impact. And we are right now talking about Indy and what went on there. I was looking at Vegas and, how they had, and, the media picked Ohio State and Oregon 1-2, and that reflects the betting odds from the different services. Ohio State's the clear favorite, followed by Oregon, who sits in there. And then Penn State is in there, and Penn State, they don't play Michigan. So that's helpful for Penn State for sure. So a lot of times it's who
you don't play.
Who you don't play, right? And when you play them and who you don't play. And that's why I saw Colin Cowherd, the national sports guy, and he was mentioning how he liked as a dark horse USC. Well, he's a big USC guy. So when he's talking about USC, and he said, look, I'm not trying to be a homer. He said, but I like USC as a dark horse. And he said, they don't play Ohio State. They don't play Oregon. And, so they don't play the two teams that are the favorite in the conference. And so I think that USC's in for a rude awakening. You know, the sunshine and the quarterback. Lincoln Riley's an excellent offensive coordinator slash head coach, offensive guru. He gets great quarterback. He gets great talent, but he just can't. I know he doesn't ignore the defensive side of the ball, but the way they practice and the way they play, it affects him. And he didn't have any defense in Oklahoma, and he hasn't had any defense in at USC. And I know he's bringing over the defensive coordinator for UCLA, but I'm not buying UCLA as a dark horse, although it sounds good, Jerry, when you don't play the Ducks and you don't play the Trojans.
Well, you know, USC is one of those teams that's got me baffled. I mean, Denny, last year, I thought at the beginning of the season they were going to be one of the teams to beat in the Pac-12. I said it. Very disappointing season. I thought their defense would have been much improved. They weren't. They were probably worse than the year before. Their offensive line play was very bad, exploited by Notre Dame on that Saturday night. That really started their downfall. And then you go to the bowl season, and I'm thinking USC is the best bet in the bowl season to go against.
Me too.
And they pull off a remarkable performance and upset. So it's one of those teams where you just don't know what to expect. And we'll see things right away. We get them at home. That's always a good thing. I think they're going to have a hard time traveling, especially going to the big house. Not playing Oregon, not playing Ohio. Though those are helpful for them, but they still have to play a lot of other teams. And I think they're going to have some trouble with some Big Ten teams that normally they would do very well with.
Yeah, I think it sounded good when he said that because he pointed out that who they didn't play. And I think if you're somebody who's a college football fan that really doesn't know USC, you're thinking, yeah, that's and look at they were like plus they're like, and they're not just like plus 575, they're like plus 2,200. So if you were a gambler, you might have been like, ooh, I like that. You know, you had a throwaway line in there. He's like, he was going over. He was like, yeah, they don't play Ohio State. They don't play Oregon. And then he said Michigan and Washington are in rebuilds. And then he went back and started talking about USC again. And I thought rebuilds. Well, Washington, they lose 21 to 22 starters. I do think Jed Fish is in for a rebuild when you lose your entire starting. Now, you could make the case, and this is what we're going to find out. Is Michigan in a rebuild on offense, or are they in a reload on offense? And are you in a rebuild as a team, as you mentioned, Jerry, that you might have the best defense in the country? I'm not going to call that a rebuild. You could pull your offense along while you develop them, and then you can see what you have there on the offensive side, and if it's going to be good enough to keep you in the championship race.
When you've got that kind of defensive personnel, when you've got these kind of defensive players coming back, there's no reason not to have them in your top picks. And to sit there and say Michigan's in a rebuild, half your team is very, very solid. So I don't know if you did your homework real well. I think our defense is going to be they're going to be outstanding, and they're gonna bring a lot of people with a lot of experience, a lot of talent, a lot of speed, a lot of strength. Defensively, I think we're going to be one of the best in the country. Offensively, Michigan having no one coming back on the offensive line is not nearly as bad as other teams, because we know Michigan is a reloader on the offensive line. I think Scar's brought it up many times. Our good buddy Rich Stringer didn't play for 4 years. He was a fifth-year starter and ends up being the second-round pick of the Detroit Lions early in the second round. So when you look at Michigan and you say they're rebuilding on the offensive line, you got to be careful with that one too.
No, Jerry, I think to your point, you watch enough college football, and we know each season takes on its own deal, and the players are different. We completely understand that, but teams, Lincoln Riley's team is known for quarterback play. He gets outstanding quarterbacks. He develops them. We know that Iowa is going to have an outstanding tight end. We know that Michigan, they hang their hat on the offensive line. So from that standpoint, we're ready to see. Let's answer some of these questions. Scott is pointing out that he thinks Donovan Edwards and Derek Moore are both going to have huge seasons. And I think you agree with that. You've mentioned that Donovan Edwards, you think he's going to have a big season.
I think Donovan is going to come out this year. I think he had a little bit of a junior slump last year. He's been very productive when he's been asked to be productive. And I just think he's waiting his time. He's one of those Michigan players that waits until or is not really afforded an opportunity to showcase his talents until his senior year. And I think he's in a great position where he's going to be not only a great talent on our team and a great running back, probably one of the top 5 in the country, but he's also going to be a leader. I think Donovan Edwards is going to showcase his leadership skills this year as much as anything. And I think the team's going to rally around him on offense.
Scott, yes, Max Bredeson. If you were putting out, if you said who is Michigan's starting fullback, that's who you would say.
And I would also go as far as this. If we've got Orji running the offense, I stand to see a lot more Bredeson. I could see a lot more 21 personnel with Bredeson out there. Think about him leading blocking for Orji on some kind of quarterback power run and design power runs like that. So I got a feeling Bredeson is going to see some big time action this year. That's my point on that. Denny, you there? Did we freeze? Did you lose me? Danny?